I had been looking forward to this weekend for months. After 6 brutal weeks at work, staring at screens and drowning in deadlines, I needed to get out of the city, out of everything. My friend Chris suggested a camping trip to a remote spot in the mountains, 3 hours from town, where there was supposedly no cell service and very few people ever went. At the time, I thought it sounded perfect. Peace, fresh air, a chance to sleep without alarms or traffic. The drive there was already a little unnerving. The further we went, the narrower the road became, dirt and gravel replacing asphalt. Tall pine trees pressed in on either side so close that it felt like they were leaning toward the car. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself it was part of the adventure. Chris kept joking, trying to lighten the mood, but I noticed even he seemed a little tense. When we arrived, the sun was low, painting the forest in orange and red streaks. The campsite was as secluded as promised, an open patch of dirt surrounded by thick woods. I could feel the difference immediately. The smell of pine and wet earth was strong, the air crisp. I stepped out of the car and breathed in deeply, savoring the quiet. For a moment, it felt like the real world had ended, and only we existed here. Setting up the tent took longer than I expected. Chris was half distracted, texting, checking his phone, hammering stakes in with no real technique. I ended up doing most of it, grumbling under my breath. By the time the tent was secure, the sun was gone, leaving the woods in dusky shadows that seemed to twist and shift as the last light disappeared. We built a small fire, cracked open a couple of beers, and tried to settle into the weekend. The forest felt peaceful, almost hypnotic, but there was a tension beneath it, something I couldn't quite identify. Night came faster than I expected. The woods changed, the quiet broken by small noises that sounded louder than they should have. Crickets, the occasional hoot of an owl, rustling in the underbrush. I was starting to feel a little on edge, a tightness in my chest I hadn't felt all day. Then I heard it, a snap of a branch, deliberate, not random. I froze. I scanned the darkness, straining to see movement, but nothing came. Probably just a deer, I said, though I didn't convince myself. Chris laughed nervously. Yeah, probably. Go back to sleep. But I couldn't sleep. I lay in the tent, knife in my hand, listening. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving just outside the radius of the firelight. My heart pounded so hard I thought he or it might hear it. I nudged Chris. Hey, wake up. What? He mumbled, groggy. Someone's out there. He rolled over, dismissive. It's the woods, man. Go back to sleep. I didn't. Every rustle of leaves made me jump. Every gust of wind sounded like a footstep. I dozed in short bursts, always half awake, eyes darting toward the dark. Morning felt like a relief, a temporary armor against whatever was out there. We decided to go for a hike. Maybe the fresh air would shake off the tension. The trail was narrow, twisting between trees, and I couldn't stop scanning. That's when I saw it. Footprints in the mud. Enormous, human, perfectly parallel to the trail. Fresh. Look at this, I said to Chris. He squinted. Probably another camper. Maybe. But the spacing, the depth, the way they tracked close to our campsite, it wasn't right. It didn't feel casual. We tried to enjoy the hike, joking, talking, but the unease never left me. Back at camp, I made sure the fire was high and the knife stayed within reach. Hours passed in an almost unbearable quiet. Then I heard it again. Footsteps, unmistakable this time, much closer. My flashlight cut through the dark, and I thought I saw a figure, tall and hunched, maybe 50 feet away, just standing, watching. Then, like a shadow, it melted into the trees. I didn't sleep again that night. Not really. Every crackle of the dying fire, every rustle in the dark, made me flinch. Chris tried to joke, tried to reassure me, but I knew what I'd seen. Someone had been close enough to study us, maybe wait for a moment to strike. The next morning brought a new terror. Our car door was slightly open. Chris insisted he had closed it, and I knew I had. Nothing inside was missing, but the implication was clear. Someone had been there. We packed quickly, trying to convince ourselves it might just be a coincidence. But I could see it in Chris's face. He was finally scared too. We explored nearby trails cautiously, keeping our eyes peeled. I kept the knife visible now, my flashlight ready. Every shadow, every movement among the trees made my heart race. That night, the footsteps came again. Heavier this time, deliberate, closer. I shone the flashlight into the darkness and saw him. A man, tall, broad, face hidden under a hood, standing just beyond the firelight. He didn't move, didn't make a sound, just watched. I froze, paralyzed. Chris didn't see him at first. "He's gone," I whispered, my voice shaking. Chris looked confused. "Who's gone?" I didn't answer. By the time I gathered my courage to sweep the flashlight around again, he was gone. My chest was tight, my stomach in knots. Sleep was impossible, and when the first light of dawn came, I felt numb and exhausted. I decided then, we were leaving. I didn't care about finishing the trip. I didn't care about leaving the tent set up or whether Chris thought we were overreacting. We packed as fast as possible, every sound making me flinch. As we loaded the last of our gear into the car, I caught movement again, a dark figure crouching near the edge of the campsite, just beyond the tree line. My heart froze. Chris finally saw him. What the hell? The figure bolted into the woods, fast, silently. My stomach turned to ice. We jumped into the car and drove, tires crunching over gravel, adrenaline making my hands shake as I gripped the wheel. We didn't stop until we were back on a paved road, the trees thinning, civilization returning. In the days that followed, I checked the news obsessively. Nothing. No missing hikers, no attacks. I couldn't believe it. Whoever it was, he had been patient, watching us, studying us, and for some reason, hadn't acted. Maybe it was luck, maybe he got bored, or maybe the sight of two alert men spooked him. Months later, I finally worked up the nerve to go back, not to camp, not to stay overnight, but just to walk the trail and see the place in daylight. I told myself it was for closure, that I needed proof that what happened wasn't just some fear-warped memory. But as soon as I stepped out of my car, I felt that familiar pressure settle in my chest. The woods looked ordinary, almost boring, but I knew better. I followed the same path we'd taken that night. Every branch, every bend, every sound felt like an echo of what nearly happened. I expected to see something: broken branches, footprints, a piece of clothing, anything, but there was nothing. The forest was silent, still, almost indifferent, like it had swallowed every trace of that figure whole. I waited, listening, scanning between the trees, half expecting him to step out again, but nothing moved. No one watched. And somehow, that emptiness was almost worse. It made me realize that people like him don't need the cover of darkness to exist. They don't need supernatural tricks. They're real. They walk the same paths we walk. They wait for the same moments we take for granted. Standing there, I understood something I didn't fully grasp that night. The only reason we made it out was because we paid attention. Because instincts aren't paranoia, they're warnings. And ignoring them is exactly how people disappear and become stories retold by strangers. I thought going back would give me closure, but it didn't. It just confirmed the truth I'd been trying not to accept. He was real, he was out there, and he chose us. The fact that he didn't catch us wasn't luck, it was awareness, timing, and the decision to leave when everything inside us said to leave. I still camp, but I don't sleep the same way. I don't brush off strange noises or dismiss that feeling when the hair rises on the back of my neck. I learned to respect the shadows, because the shadows aren't the danger. What hides inside them is. And somewhere out there, in some other patch of trees, that man is probably still watching someone else, quiet, patient, waiting for the moment they stop paying attention. That night could have destroyed us. Instead, it taught me the one thing that really saves people out there. You survive by listening to the fear you don't want to believe is real.